Hello again and thanks for joining. Today I've got this second-hand model to have a look at. It's actually from Klein Bahn. On this channel we've had various Klein Bahn items in the past. Some have been really good I think, but some have been a little bit ropey, especially their older wagons and coaches. This model looks to be pretty good I think. It's an Austrian ÖBB electric locomotive in that really striking orange colour and it looks really quite cool. It looks like it's got a lot going for it, so let's have a closer look at it. So immediately noticeable on this locomotive is that both of the bonnets articulate, and that's to help this model get round tight corners. It does have a cocoa wheel arrangement and it is quite a long locomotive, but that means that there is quite a big gap between the bonnet and the main part of the locomotive here, and you can see that's evident at both ends. That does somewhat spoil the looks of this locomotive, however it is very characterful. But what we have here, it looks as though we've got some lights at the front, this 3-light arrangement. There's a panel on the front here moulded in which doesn't have any transfers on it. You would think it would have a number, but it does have a good buffer beam with some rivet detail, a fake coupling there, and these buffers, not sprung or anything, and it's all one-piece moulding, but it is actually nice matte black colour. And we have this coupling hanging out the front, fairly basic on these ones. This part here, which has been picked out in silver or gunmetal colour, I'm not sure that's from the factory. It looks as though it's maybe been done afterwards by the previous owner. There's a lot of really nice grille details down here, and this painted white line looks not too bad at all. It goes all the way around the front. A little bit of problems around this light here, where it isn't quite right on this side. The cab does have flush fit glazing there with some windscreen wipers moulded in, and another indication of a light at the top there. I don't think that one's illuminated. Down the side here, the main piece of moulding is made of plastic and it has these handrails moulded in and picked out in white. It even has this little electric flash on the top here which has been moulded in and then picked out in yellow. And that's very typical of Klein Bahn. It has the numbers moulded into the main piece of plastic and then picked out in white or a different kind of colour. You can see the windows are very clear, but inside there's just a motor, and with this model we have motors on both bogies, so this is a 2-motor model, and that's probably why it's so heavy. It's certainly going to have some pulling power. But one of the things down here you can see is that the gearing is very visible below the line of the wheels here, so that somewhat spoils the effect. But the bogies do have an awful lot of detail moulded into them. The brakes aren't in line with the wheel treads though, but it's quite an impressive amount of detail moulded in there. And also the centre of this locomotive has a very characterful drop down part here with the see-through holes in it, but there's no detail underneath this locomotive. There's all the grills moulded into the side of the body here, and then the roof is painted this light grey colour, not too well. You can see a little bit of a problem just here. And at number 2 end, apart from the number 2 on the door, it's exactly the same. So up on the roof here we have the 2 pantographs made in metal and sprung loaded. They look pretty good and they've got these plastic insulators. And we also have this piece of wire connecting the two with some plastic insulators onto the roof moulded in brown. Got a screw on the top here which I guess takes the body off of the chassis, and this part here you can switch between overhead and 2-rail pickup, and there's another piece of electrical gear added in there as well, so lots of extra parts added onto this roof, and also some nice hatch detail and grills as well, so a lot going on the top of this locomotive, that's for sure. It also has these extra darker grey plastic pieces added in, only on one side here, very typical of this model of locomotive. So it's certainly a locomotive with lots of character to it. It's almost got a dog-like look to the front of it. So let's see if we can get this body off and we'll have a look at the mechanism inside. So with the main body moulding off, you can see how the pantographs are connected with these little screws, and we do indeed have pickup from overhead if we want to with these wires here. There's also some extensive wiring in the model, and we have the 2 motors as we expected sitting on top of the 2 bogies. The main chassis piece is made of metal and it is a really good matte black colour. So I've just taken off one of the bonnets. It was just held on with a screw underneath as well. You can see that these are metal items and they do have this plastic part in it to transmit light to the 3 little lights at the front there. And that's evident here with this bulb, and I'm guessing there's one at the other end as well. The shaft of the motor has this metal screw on it, but it's operating on these plastic gears here, and that transmits power down through the gearbox to the wheels, and we have a copper pickup there just running on the top of the wheels. So it's an interesting setup this with the 2 motors. I'm wondering how it's going to run, so let me get this back together and we'll put it on the test track and give it a shot. So I've just got it here on some old Hornby 3rd radius set track, and as usual I'm using my H&M controller on 12 volts DC to power this. So let's give it some power and see what happens. Well, it's not running that great at the moment. It could actually just be that it needs some oil. It probably hasn't been run for some time, and it is quite an old model now as well. So I'll open it up again, apply some oil and see how we get on. So I've been quite some time now trying to get this model working. Everything's been oiled and it still wasn't working that well, but I finally got there after figuring out one little crucial thing that was wrong with it. But I did notice an Achilles heel with how this gear wheel is attached. There's a bolt that goes through it and there's a nut here, and that is actually part of the electrical connection, so it has to be fairly tight. However, if you over tighten it, this doesn't revolve at all because there's no washer on the bolt, so then it just jams up. So that was one of the issues we had with this model. The other issue was actually with this gear wheel here. It had the tiniest little speck of dirt or grit or maybe a bit of glue or something stuck in one of the teeth there, and it was just jamming up the mechanism on this bogie, meaning that the other bogie and motor wouldn't have enough to pull this one along without these wheels going round. So I had to get that little piece of grit out of here. It took me a while to figure out that that was a problem. Also get these two gear wheels tightened up, but not too tight. Anyway, I think I'm there now, so I'm just going to get this model back together and we'll put it back on the test track and see it going. Well, that's good news, we've finally got it running. It was a little bit temperamental there to begin with, but after a little time it was running okay. It is very noisy though, but you expect that with two motors. I did mention this is quite heavy, so let's put it on the scales and we'll see how much it weighs. So this model comes in at 473 grams. So this Klein Bahn model has been quite an interesting model to have a look at. Like many Klein Bahn models, they do opt for having twin motors, and this is a good example of one of those. And it also has the overhead pickup as well if you want to run it like that. This one also features directional lights as well. So there's a lot going on in this little model, and Klein Bahn have managed to actually pack quite a lot in here. They do a lot for Austrian railways, and there's quite a variety of different locomotives and rolling stock that they do. And it's all quite quirky and it has this unusual Austrian look. But because they've chosen these subjects, it's always going to be a bit of a compromise with the models. For example, this one's got such massive gaps on the bonnets, it just looks a bit unrealistic. And I'm not sure having two motors on this is really the best idea. I think it's a bit overkill. The obvious Achilles heel here is the gears. You're obviously going to have to keep them really clean or they're just going to jam up. And because they're so close to the rails, any dirt that you've got on your track is going to get picked up into those gears and eventually cause this model to stop running. But like many Klein Bahn locomotives, you're going to have to take care of them, but they will soldier on, I think, and be a great machine. And with its two motors, have a lot of power to pull any length of train. So these models would definitely appeal to the enthusiast who wants something that isn't just going to be a plug and play device and is going to need some work on it every now and again. And if you're after that kind of thing, then this model would certainly appeal to you. But that's just what I think. What do you think of this orange locomotive? Would it appeal to you? Do you like the two motors? Or would it be just too much hassle for you? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know your thoughts. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps this channel. I'll put this on the turntable so you can see all the way around. And in a moment, another video will appear. Just click on that and I'll see you there. But that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. See ya.